all those steps are really time-consuming. And if I simplify the different steps in the process, so often we start with a PDF or an existing form given by the Ministry of Health or an existing form, a paper form that exists in the facility. Then we'll try to slowly convert that paper form into a digital version and into an OpenMRS form. And for us, the step that was the most time-consuming is the mapping for validation of this concept, making sure that they can be reused. They are standard. They're using like ICD standards, SNOMED, LOINC standards for the lab test. And this is to make sure that we have the right concept, but also allowing us that we can reuse them. And the other thing that was difficult by building those forms is to allow the end users to quickly preview them. Because the process being so long, the end users have to wait a long time before they actually see the form as a preview in OpenMRS. So that's what we wanted to address. And all the steps, like I said, are mostly manual and so time-consuming. So it delays the adoption of the form, it delays the creation and the validation of the forms. Since all the steps are often manual, they can be tedious, and also you can have some errors. From the moment you make changes as well, you can have some errors. And so you have a lot of back and forth between the medical reference, the content team, the developers. So it's quite a big process. And the last thing also that is a challenge, or was a challenge for us, is to figure out how we can remove the technical team from the process as much as possible to not be the bottleneck. So another question for you is, among those of you who are managing content, who find it difficult actually to manage concepts, to manage content, to build the forms? Ah, good. Thank you. So based on that ask, based on what we know for this process to create those forms, we had one ambition. We wanted to make it simple, which is, imagine that you can turn those paper form or PDF or Word file into an OpenMRS 3 form ready in minutes. That's the high-level ambition that we voluntarily set. Like, it's really, really ambitious, but that's kind of our North Star to slice the different steps. So you go from this rack of paper forms that we see here to an OpenMRS 3 form on desktop or tablet in just a few minutes. So that situation was an opportunity to bring other people from the community together. So we did a partnership with OCL, Open Concept Lab, which is a global good to manage your content. And it's also a terminology layer. So for anyone working in interoperability or data exchange, that's a really interesting tool if you need to exchange data. Also with Ciel, as an interface terminology, so to be able to map your concept with the standard concepts like the LOINC, SNOMED, ICD-10, 11, and making sure that you're using international mappings in your concepts. With MSF, as a use case where we had forms, existing forms that we can use to actually build the different solutions, and the Madiro team. Also about the partnership, just to give you an idea of the time, you might have heard me talking about this topic last year. And last year, in the same time, we actually had started with a small Python fuzzy matching script that was looking for your terms and then trying to find the equivalent in OCL to help you match your concepts in Excel spreadsheets. So that was the step 0. And then we had this opportunity for a partnership that we started in early 25, and that is running until now. We have the first beta that I will present now that will be released soon. So what we did together was to slice and prioritize the different steps of improvement that you have in the process. If I summarize, like we've seen before, you have your paper form, then you might have like some spreadsheets or any way to digitalize your metadata or your concepts. So here, in our case, we use like spreadsheets. And then generate your forms. And then the last step being making sure that your forms are working well. So building a form is one thing. Making sure that it's not broken is another one. And so testing it on desktop, mobile, with the new version of OpenMRS, the new version of the form builder is quite challenging. So it's a step that we wanted to consider from the beginning. So starting from the metadata, and maybe really quick about those 4 steps, I will skip the paper form for the moment, because for us that was not the most time-consuming step in the process to go from the paper to the spreadsheet. It was actually a good exercise for the content team to go through those forms manually and really figure out like how you translate that into a point-of-care form for OpenMRS. So we didn't automate that step at the moment, and we jumped directly into the metadata spreadsheet. So assuming that we have this first version, first spreadsheet with all the concepts that you need in your form, the first solution that we went with is OCL. So we were already using OCL. For those who don't know about it, it's really this digital public good that serves as a repository for your content. It's public, it's free, you can use the platform. And then it will allow you to really store all your concepts and map them with existing content. And so it also allows you to reuse it in different projects and implementations. Here I can show a small demo of the UI. So you see you have your profile, you have your organizations, different repositories. So if you have implementation 1, B, or if it's the repository of your organization, here I'm opening MSF repository. And you see I have all the concepts, concept class, concept type, the mappings. I can also search for existing concepts. If I open the details of one concept, I see all the translations, the synonyms, and the mappings. So if it's linked to a CL or any other concepts, or if it's a concept set with questions and answers. I can also look for other existing concepts and in other community libraries, like CL as an interface terminology. I can use CIL as a reference. I will insist on this point. OCL for Open Concept Lab is the platform, the digital public good. CIEL is the interface terminology from the Columbia University that is actually mapping the concepts with the international standards like SNOMED, ICD, LOINC, and the other ones. So that's about the platform solution. I call it like solution 1A, because that was our first step. And this existed before the partnership, before the actual work that I'm presenting right now. And we've been using it in production for probably 6 years, I think. So it works well. The next solution, which is the 1B, I will pause 2 seconds. Whoop. So the next solution, which is actually the result of this partnership, is the OCL mapper. And the OCL mapper is how we went from this small Python script that was doing like fuzzy matching, trying to semantically find your terms, to a complete AI workflow and a vector database with your terminology. So the repository that you have seen here, for example, the MSF repository where we have about like 5,000 terms, is now vectorized. So it means that we can do queries on it using the AI, and we can do retrieval augmented generation on it. So I can look for a term in Arabic, and it will be able to return me the term in French. I can have the acronym. It will be able to understand the full word. So that's really the added value of using the RAG and the vector database, is that it's okay if I'm not spelling it right. It's okay if the meaning is a bit different. The RAG will actually do that job to understand that, okay, that's the concept I'm looking for, most likely. But still, what we wanted to do is to give the full visibility to the user on what are the results. So we are ranking the results. Actually, I will show you. It will be easier. So here in the UI of the OCL mapper, you can upload. Remember, like the spreadsheet I had at the beginning with the metadata? It's not. Let's say it's not mapped yet to the standard. That's what we want to do. So I will use the OCL mapper, upload that spreadsheet that I have, and then here you see in the UI, I'm able to say, okay, which algorithm I want to use. And what we did from the beginning is to use mini-LM, which is a really, really low-profile model that you can run locally, and it's multilingual. So if I look for something in French, it will embed my query in French and be able to find it in English in OCL. So here I'm using the small model, mini-LM. It could be embedding Gemma from Google, for example, which is a small model multilingual as well. You can also have your custom API. If you're using, for example, another vector database like Pinecone or Melview, like any other vector database, you can also define it here. And you have also the previous Elasticsearch that was existing before. So it's like a fuzzy matching, like a classic search. But what really changed things was to use the AI model, the mini-LM. So here I select the model. And so the model is using Elasticsearch embeddings as a vector database. In the UI, you see I can decide, okay, in my spreadsheet, which column do I want to use? If I put all my concept names in here, it's label, I can tell the UI, hey, look into the label column, that's where I have my terms. And I also have like a data type column, use it to do your research. So I configure the settings. Here I have about like 500 concepts. So now we start the search. And you will see that in I think it's less than 2 minutes, it will actually find all the corresponding matches and candidates that we have in the system. So in the search, I selected the MSF repository. You could select your own repository of your organization, or you could select CIL, the interface terminology, to find your terms in this one. So here we go. We see like we have almost the 500 process. I think it's been less than 1 minute. And now if I click on one of them, one of the suggested term, you see I have the top one that is suggested, like the best result that was found. And then below I have all the candidates. And you see the score, like 100% match, or like 90%, 80%. So you have a good idea of your candidates, and you can decide which one you want to use. And if you are not sure, I'm not a terminologist, I'm not a clinician, I'm not sure about those terms. So first I have the results, but then I can also ask the assistant on the suggestion. So here you see, I will pause really quick. We have, I will show you again, here we go. So really the goal of this tool, the OCL mapper, is to help you to map your content to international standards, or is to make you confident that you're doing the right mapping. Because sometimes you don't have like a team of content management, you don't have like terminologists, you don't have the right clinicians next to you, but you still need sometimes to map things as best as possible. And that's really the goal of this tool, is to give you that confidence. And here, with the small AI assistant on top of the result, it's just to increase that, that confidence. So you see, here we clicked on AI assistant just to judge. So that's what we call the LLM as a judge on top of the result of the RAG. So it's like the AI is using other AI to be critical on itself. And it says, yeah, in your context, it seems pretty much to be the right concept. Sorry. And that's the idea, is that you are giving more and more context to the queries, so it understands well what you're looking for. If I'm looking for nutrition, mental health, a diagnosis, a procedures, like that context will help you to do the right choice. And here, for example, you see I have like NUT, N-U-T for nutrition. It was, of course, able to understand that I was looking for nutrition. If I have sometimes like here, psychosomatic was in the list of terms, that's it, nothing else. But it tells me, yeah, usually at MSF you use psychosomatic program or psychosomatic problems, and so you can decide what to use. And the UI is made in a way that you can go through like a lot of concepts at a time. So that's for the demo of the OCL mapper. And something important that we have, so for this first version, but the way we see the workflow is that we are also capturing all the decisions that are made to build a memory of decisions. So we are constantly increasing the confidence and the quality of the candidates, also meaning that, again, always thinking about this situation where you have an organization with terminologists, good for you. But if I have an NGO, I have this clinic that I'm running, and I don't have anyone, I can still use the tool and benefit from the decisions that were made from actual terminologists. So we build up knowledge on terminology. It's kind of terminology intelligence that we are slowly building up. And the tool is, here I'm just presenting for OpenMRS Content, but the tool is also, and the algorithm is refined for LOINC content as well. So if you have more complex properties in your terminology, it's also considered. Solution 1C, that you might have seen the other day. So this one is pretty early. That's why you see the small crane next to the title. Like, it's not something that we use in production. OCL is used in production. The OCL mapper is used in production. But this one is more like for exploration. So we are being really careful with it. But as you've seen maybe the other day, this one allows us to look for terms in OCL and discuss with OCL. So if you already have your concept ID, it will do a really good job to tell you the status of those concepts. And you can also take actions. So like the example that I gave the other day, if you don't have, let's say, French translations or Arabic translations, anything in your concept, you can ask the OCL MCP to do those translations for you, add them in OCL, and so your team on site can review and make sure that this is the right translations. So that is solution 1C. All around OCL. So it means that we cover the step of the metadata and defining the concepts. The next step that was the most time-consuming for us is the generation of the forms, generation of those schema that we put in OpenMRS 3, and also including the skip logic, including the calculations that you might have in your forms. And we started with a really simple, again, a small Python script that does that job. and we were covering like maybe 50%, like the basic skeleton of your form, and then slowly we increased the coverage and the support of what can be automated, like the skip logic. The translations are also supported now. So if you have your spreadsheet, we can generate your form. Right? I will let Pius talk a bit about it and show you the demo.
Right, cool. Hello everyone, morning. Pius, for those who don't know me. So just a brief background on this. So when we started the MSF project about close to 2 years ago, the initial phase was mostly focused around mental health forms, and that's about 7 forms. And the process was really brutal and was really long. It was 7 forms, but then the time it took to get these 7 forms into a place where it could be at least verified by the MSF team and then the people on the ground took forever. 6 months is a very long time to work on 7 forms. So around that time, we decided to start finding ways of automating the process of generating the forms. There was already an Excel sheet with all the metadata, all the fields, and all the data types already in the Excel sheet. So it started off as a couple of scripts, Python scripts, basically just extracting based on the headers and the rest of it all. But of course, this was more of, it's too techy of sorts. It was more of a process which involved running the scripts, having Python environment running locally, and the rest of it all. So what we decided to do was take this a step further and build a UI around the scripts. So let me just play this. Yeah, so let me just pause a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, so let me just pause a little bit. So, like I said, so what we did is we got basically all the scripts we're using internally, on the dev process, and we built up this, we call it the form generation. So we just try to make it cool by calling it form gen. So this is a UI for that basically automates this process without having to have Python running locally. So what we uploaded here, let me just rewind this a little bit. Let me just talk about this. So this file that has been uploaded here is basically the metadata file for that is being used for Lime, which is the EMR in Iraq. So all you have to do basically is upload the file, and what it does is the platform basically analyzes the file you have uploaded and extracts all the forms that are part of this metadata file. So this is about the over 30 forms on this. There are actually more than 40 forms on this. So it basically analyzes and gives you the list of all the possible forms you can actually generate from this. And for demo purposes, we're going to use the PHP 9, which is a short form, just to make this faster. So after this is done, sorry, let me just pause this a little bit. So once you have selected the form and selected the generate button, basically click the generate button, it basically shows you a summary of everything that has been gotten from this form, from this metadata. The number of questions, the answers, pages, sections, basically a summary of everything. And then it extracts for you the translations as well as the form JSON itself. This is form JSON, and this is the structure that is being used. This is a form format that is being used in O3. So it gives you an option to either download the JSON file and just drop it into your distro, as same applies to translation. And alternatively, if you would prefer to have like a preview, if you prefer to have a preview, there's an option to basically say this, and from this JSON, all you have to do is you can decide to copy the JSON and throw it into the form builder. There's a builder app within O3 already, so you could just decide to pick this JSON, throw it in the form builder, have a render, have a preview, make some edits in case maybe some of the skip logic isn't working correctly, and you're good to go, and you can save the form. Now, we're taking this a step further. This is not in the demo here. Something else that we're doing, beyond generating the forms, we have an issue around form validation, field validation. So for simpler things like text fields, text areas, and the rest of it all, that is very quick. It's just a text. But then when it comes to things like skip logic, the skip logic is evolving It's not perfect yet. It's not perfect, but it's evolving. So there is need for a little bit of intervention, human intervention around perfecting it and making sure it works correctly. And that is something that we're still improving. And beyond that, we're also looking at how we can hook this up to OCL to make sure that the concepts actually have the right data types. Now, for people who have done forms and interact with the OCL, you know that, for example, something simple as a numeric field. A numeric field requires an allowed decimal. It's a requirement in OpenMRS. So if a numeric field, for example, misses some of those attributes, you find that saving the form will actually fail. It will fail because it doesn't know how to handle some parts of it. So what we're trying to do, this is more like a feature now. What we want to do is basically take this a step further and improve the already current validation that we have within the form builder so that we can easily flag some of these issues and make this process way faster. So we took a spin with this 2 months back when we had like a working prototype, and we were able to deliver about 19 forms. That included programs around, there are about 4 clinical programs. So we were able to deliver 19 forms in less than 2 weeks, and that was a very big improvement. So if you compare the 6 months and the 2 weeks, that's a very big change. And within the 2 weeks, we had all those 19 forms ready for review, verified, translations intact, and that was a very big improvement, and it has really improved our workflow. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pais. And what Pais was just explaining actually about you can copy-paste your schema that is generated and directly in OpenMRS. So we have that on the next slide, I think, if it was. Yes, so you remember like the schema that we had that was generated in about like 2 seconds? Then you can drop it in your OpenMRS form builder, render, and that's it, you have your form. So here we save it. You have all your questions. Like Pius just said also in the form gen, we are adding more and more validations. So if there is a change in the form builder of OpenMRS, we reflect that validation in the form generator. So it checks for skip logic, it checks for duplication of IDs, like all those checks before it hits OpenMRS. And so here we go, we have the form that is usable. So that is for the form gen. And also important to know that this is no AI. Like we have some part of the tools and the process you need AI, some we don't. And anytime we can skip the AI, we will. Like we discussed the other day, we want to reduce the cost, we don't want to have dependency on AI, but we use AI to improve, of course, the form gen, to help us improve the UI, to help us improve the validations. So that brings us to the step 3, which is testing. And just to come back to the previous one, so metadata, spreadsheet, good. In OCL, generate the form with form gen, good, we have that. And then now the next step that we are exploring is to be able to generate tests for us based on those schema, JSON schema. So we have developers in the room. I think all of us, it's annoying as much as it's practical to have automated tests, right? Like when you build your UI, when you build anything, when you have tests, okay, that's great. It makes your life easier, but it's so painful sometimes to create and to figure out like, okay, where do I need to click? How will I build this test? So we wanted to explore the idea to use, again, I'm sorry to say that name again, but an MCP, playwright MCP, that allows us to see what you have in your browser for you. So basically the AI is able to see what you have in your browser and based on what you ask, take action for you. So if we have that, we thought about like, oh, maybe it can understand our form and then make the test for us. So that's what we explored. If the slide works. So we built a small test generator agent, which is just a markdown. Again, it's just an MD file with an agent that has some rules and that use also the context MCP to understand the front end of OpenMRS. And here we just ask the agent, hey, could you try to log in OpenMRS? Could you find a patient or register a patient? And then generate that end-to-end test case for me. So the playwright specs for me, based on what you discover. So basically we do UI discovery with the AI. So we have user stories, and it will do the job for us. Here, for example, it's looking for gender. It's like, oh, I need to fill out the gender of the patient. But in the UI of OpenMRS, it's sex. So the AI is able to understand that, okay, the right term is sex in the UI, I will use that. And here it filled out correctly the registration form, did login, everything. And the agent is saving the specs in my form, in the form gen folder. So then I can use it locally every time we have new forms. Well, right now we are building on the UI, but the next step is to have it for the forms. And also in GitHub Actions. So it means that next step, when we have the forms in the empath forms of the initializer in the repository, we also have, for example, the PHQ9 specs in the automated tests that will run in the GitHub action the same way we have it here for the login and registration. So that's just a small example, but we can imagine that for all the features of OpenMRS. And if there is a change in the UI one day, we can just ask the agent, oh, I have this change, look at the repository. Can you generate the test or review the test for me, making sure that the UI is still good? Or do you need to update the end-to-end test for me to make sure that it's usable? All right, so like I said at the beginning, we didn't spend much time on the paper form to spreadsheet step because it's not the most time-consuming. Like, it's tedious, but it's not the most time-consuming. And it was actually a good practice, but we just wanted to explore the idea. Again, for if you have a team where you don't have a lot of resources and you still want to digitalize, that could save you a couple of hours or days in, or give you like a full skeleton of your metadata and concepts. So we just explored the idea of a form agent, again, same as the test agent, where you have a PDF like this. We might all have seen that kind of document, where you have your clinical form on one side in a PDF or a Word file. And then we want to turn it into this spreadsheet, so what we use in the previous examples. So again, we built this small agent that we configured. We are giving the structure of the file that we would like to have at the end. We are giving some basic rules about what could be in the spreadsheet. How do you handle like Boolean? How do you handle like coded list? How do you handle anything that might be missing, free text, anything? So it like has super prompt, those agents. And here we see that it's extracting the concepts from the paper form into the metadata. So we see now we have the PHQ9 metadata file that has been generated, that has been extracted and created, that then I can use in the form gen. And we also have a PHQ9 concept list in case you want to have another list. But you can really tweak that into any format that accommodates you and the organization. All right, so those are like the 4 steps that we worked on. And the goal since the beginning was to quickly iterate, quickly evaluate the model, the algorithm, the tools to see what is worthwhile, what is not. And for that, we work with CIL to really validate the data sets that we have, and also with the MSF concepts. So we pre-validated sets of content, and then it was a way for us to quickly improve the workflow and be critical on the confidence of the OCL mapper, the form gen, and all those tools. So like Pius mentioned, we started with the mental health, then we had like the other programs, family planning and the other ones. But the idea was to save efforts as fast as possible. And really OCL, like the two main options like OCL, OCL mapper, and the form generator were the ones that saved us the most time. So the results of this, I'd say 9 months of work. Here, you probably don't see anything with this on this chart, but the first dots that we have is the number of forms that we started with. So at first we had 8 forms. That was the first step in in January, end of the year last year. And that took us 23 days average per form. It's huge, right? Like, can you imagine? It took us like 5 to 6 months to build those forms. It was so much time, and like I said, so much back and forth. It's too much, because again, the initial ask was to build like almost 50 forms. So we needed to be creative and find other options. Then we introduced the small fuzzy matching Python that we talked about last year. That reduced the number of days to 15 days per form. Here in the next batch of forms that we worked on, we had like six forms, and we reduced the average time to 15 days. That was around May 25. Then we introduced OCL mapper, still iterating to improve. And then we introduced the form gen UI that really removed us from being a bottleneck for the medical team and no dependency on technical teams. And that dropped the number to 2 to 3 days per form, because there were no more dependency or bottleneck, and the generation was way faster, and the mapping was way faster. So in the last batch, which was July 25, we had, like Pius mentioned, 18 forms, and yeah, it was about like 2-3 days per form. So I think you don't see much, but you might see the red and the green curve inverting, I hope. And we really went from like, oh my God, we have 50 forms to create, to like, give us more. I think now it's like we are craving for more forms because it's way smoother. Yeah, that's it. And about the next step, the goal is really to keep improving the OCL mapper and the confidence in the results for anyone to make choices and decisions on mapping with more confidence and more accurately. Also, we'll probably keep you posted about the end-to-end test generation, because that's something that we see a lot of value into, and that could help us to stabilize the forms, no matter the changes that you have in OpenMRS 3 UI. And yeah, I think those are the main points. That being said, if any of you think about an idea, a challenge that we are not considering here, or any improvement, I mentioned we didn't spend too much time on the paper to metadata generation. We didn't spend much time on the MCP yet. But if you see value that maybe we don't see, please let us know so we can prioritize things and make sure that it's beneficial for the community. So that's the reason why you have this big QR code here. It's simply a form that where you can drop your ideas, drop your questions, drop your challenges, so we can consider that in the small team and partnership that we have for the future iterations. And if you want to engage, if you are curious about this, the main link that I want to bring you to is Open Concept Lab. Like it's really a tool that helped us a lot. I didn't put here the link to the form generator, but let us know if it's something that you might be interested in for your organization. And for the community calls for Open Concept Lab, so it's the same as OpenMRS. You have squads and you have community calls every week. The main call being on Wednesdays, And you also have an OCL mapper call on Thursdays at 3 p.m. EAT. And there is also a Slack channel, OCL, on OpenMRS Slack, so you can find easily OCL community members there. That's it. Thanks a lot. Is there, we have like a few minutes left. Is there questions, any questions?
Excellent work by you and the team, well done. So I'm wondering is this ready for local teams for you guys to use, or has it all been done with people who've done this? Because some of these tools, as we were teasing yesterday, it's not always obvious which choices to make on some of these screens. And I do have one follow-up question. Oh, the other one has to do with a topic near and dear to my heart, which is for these 50 forms that you've done, which is excellent, are they shared somewhere? So if somebody else wanted a nutrition form or somebody else wanted a family planning form, they would be able to pick that up.
Thank you, Helen. So to this last question, the answer is yes. Everything we do with the MSF team is public. The repository is public. So all the forms are in the initializer file, so unpath forms domain, including the translations in Arabic and English. So all that is public. If you have questions about the structure of the forms or the details of the services and how it is used in the services, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to give you more details about the patient pathway so you can see if it makes sense with yours. And all those forms are also mapped to CL. So they use MSF-specific IDs. They are in the MSF-specific domain and repository, but they are all mapped to international concepts if you want to reuse them. And the first question, which was... Yeah. Exactly. So yes, the medical reference and the medical team are using the OCL mapper to find the terms. And like Paris mentioned also at the beginning, that's the reason why we wanted to build this OCL mapper with the OCL team, is because before we are using those Python script and we don't want to have any technical bottleneck. We want to give those tools to the medical team and the clinicians in the field, anywhere they are, to actually use it. The thing is, and that's why we wanted to present this today, is because we want to keep improving the UI. We want to make sure that it's really helpful. And the OCL mapper, as it is right now, is like step one. Like you bring a spreadsheet, it will do all your mappings, then you can download the spreadsheet. Next step is that you can bring it directly to an OCL source or collection, so you can more quickly and more smoothly consume your concepts that have been mapped and standardized. But yeah, the short answer is really yes. Local team have been using it, and the best example I can give is that the MSF team used it, and then in the team in Burundi, for the project in Burundi, the program manager doesn't like technology. We've been trying to explain like the importance of concepts, the importance of content. He didn't want to hear that. He was like, I need an EMR, right? And so he worked with us to like actually test the OCL mapper. We gave him the tool. He has his spreadsheet of diagnosis, procedures, lab test, and he went through like 2,000 concepts on its own in like 2 days. I was like, okay, there is some value in this tool maybe. I wasn't expecting him to actually use the tool and enjoy it. So, but any feedback about the UI is more than welcome to make that more easy.
All right, good morning, everyone. Joseph Kiliagana once again from Reach Out Tombia. My comment is coming right away from the site visits we had yesterday. We noticed there is a lot of opportunity in the laboratory section when it comes to interoperability with OpenMRS platform. We realized that many of the equipment in the laboratory do not speak direct to the system. One which has some level of interoperability receives the requests for investigations and results. When they get back, they are uploaded as a CSV. So if maybe we can, before we go to the QRA, to put there what we think can be done, if we can have a team that can think about mapping out most of the common laboratory equipment that we have, and then we see if we can have a way they can speak to the system directly. I think that would be a plus for the platform. Thank you.
Thank you. So if I understand well, the question is about how could this tool help you to map your lab test to make sure that you can exchange data more easily, right? Yeah. Yes, it could, in the sense that, let's say that you have a facility, Uganda IMR facility, like we have seen yesterday. You probably have like this list of concepts and concept sets with your lab test. And if they are not mapped yet to an international standard for test, then you can use this tool. And for example, here I was using the MSF source, the MSF repository of concepts as a target, but you could use LOINC. And so it will map all your tests that you have in your facility to LOINC international concepts. So this way, if you exchange tests outside of your facility at the national level, they can also, either they have already international concepts, or they can also use this tool to map it to international concepts. And the tool will be presented at the International LOINC Conference in 2 weeks as well. So that community is also starting using the tool. And the OCL Mapper supports the different levels of laboratories. So LOINC structure is about like 6 to 10 key properties. And it's often like hidden in sub-property. But we have tweaked the tool to be able to support those like hidden sub-properties that you have in concepts. So this way you can not only try to find, let's say, the full name, because often in OpenMRS, if you had the full name and data type of a concept, you can more or less easily find the right concept in CL, for example. But in lab test, it's often hidden in like sub-properties or in different mappings. And that's what we took into consideration when developing the OCL Mapper, is to support all those different use cases. So yeah, short answer, you could use the OCL Mapper for that.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for the presentation, very enlightening. Maybe just a question on clarification for the forms. The process seems very efficient, but what if there's a case where the JSON as an output is generated by the form gen, but the concept is not there in OpenMRS? So is it like created in OpenMRS, or someone has to create them first and then import the form? Because of course, if you import and it's not there, it will be an error. And like if they're like duplicates, how that is handled. And then maybe just a follow-up also on the same is, if you already import the form successfully, and then probably you do some changes, maybe add skip logic to the form already generated on OpenMRS, and then let's say 6 months later, there are some changes that needed to be made on the form. Let's say it's just 5 new data points that need to be collected. So is the process started again from scratch in the Excel file, adding the like 5 rows for the new data points, then a new JSON is generated, or is there a way to like amend what was already there before? Thank you.
Thank you. Two really, really good questions, so thank you for that. The first one about the concept being present in OpenMRS. So when we build the form gen, we assume that there is no concept in OpenMRS. If you have your concept, great, it will use them. If you don't have them, it's okay also. Because what we wanted is that the user can quickly see a preview of the form. So of course in OpenMRS you won't be able to submit. If you don't have all your concepts, it will block. But the thing is, what they need is the UI. They want to see the form quickly, and so validate with the local teams, validate with the medical reference, to then confirm the structure of the form and which concepts to use. So this way the process is really flexible and iterative, and we don't even use the form gen. Like the medical team is using it. So they can build their spreadsheet, get their preview, so they go themselves in OpenMRS, drop the schema, save, and then they show that with the medical referent to quickly validate it. So you don't need your concepts in the system. Yeah. And the small question about the duplicates, so the form gen handles duplications. So the one that we see often is like other, right? Like other, and you will be stuck with your skip logic or any calculation. So the form gen will take that into consideration and generate a unique ID for your other fields to make sure that you don't break your skip logic, and also flag it to you in the UI. Like we didn't showcase all the alerts, but it will tell you if you have something that looks might break your form. And the second question about the update. So at first, the form gen was covering like 60%, 70%, 80. Now we are getting close to like 90, 100%. So you can take your spreadsheet, boom, generate everything. It's ready to use. And you know, like the 10, 20% missing, it's okay. You don't need that for the preview. So when the team validates the form, then the dev team jumps into it to complete the 10% missing. So now the process is that if there is a change, let's say in 3 months, if it's a small change and the dev team is available, then they will do those tweaks in the schema quickly. Like most of the time, I would say that's what we have. Now, if it's like a refactoring of the form, we might regenerate. So we always balance the time effort. But on the long run, that's why we would like to have more integration between something like here you have all those tools separated because we wanted to build them. But the idea is that at some point it will be more streamlined. Like you see, we use Streamlit for the app. Like it's a prototype, but it's okay because we are learning with that. But it will be more streamlined. And so if you have a change, you can see the difference between what you have in OpenMRS, what you have in your schema, what you have in OCL, and then it helps you to make sure that everything is aligned. So that's like the next step. Maybe in 26, we'll give an update about that. Thanks.
I just wanted to add something small. He mentioned something around in case the concepts don't exist. And I think that is something that I mentioned a little bit when I was finishing up. So, yeah, of course, by the time you start the process of generation, some of the concepts may be missing, some of them, and that's why we talked about the validation. Now, there's already a tool, and fortunately, not fortunately, it's more of like you have to enable it on the meta tools, but there's already a validation tool inbuilt within the form builder that actually checks for these concepts and tries to verify, and that's something that we want to build on top of and improve and make this tool more intuitive and advise and basically tell you that, okay, this is missing, this one has an issue. So that's something that we are improving continuously. Right now, it's mostly focused around in case there's a missing concept, but that's what we want to like build on top of and go a step further and actually make sure that the data types are correct, and maybe in case there's some missing attributes, we can handle that and alert you before you can ship the form out. But yes, but at least for now, the main thing is getting it as fast as possible, getting it in the hands of the clinicians, and making sure that everything is verified. Yeah. The feature request around changes, that sounds like a cool thing. So yeah, watch out.
Any last question maybe before we wrap up? All good? Well, Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Michael and Pius. Please give them a better hand. I think the takeaways for us are really that the form has come from weeks to days, and most especially the integrations, and also they're agreeing to be able to make some changes, especially to change the way health in this country or all over the globe is. For now, we're going to break out into sessions, and they're going to be about 4 sessions, 4 breakout sessions, and I'd like to let you know exactly where they'll be. And these are the 4 sessions that will be there. One will be the queue management that will stay right here, and it will be managed by Musa Mwanje. And then they'll have the 360 facility coverage of OpenMRS solutions that will happen in the Majestic room, just downstairs. And then we'll have the clinical views in O3 that will happen also in Riga. That will be Jeremy Jabbar that will manage that. And finally, there'll be patient SMS alerts by PIH Rwanda in Royal. So you can choose whichever breakout session you'd like, and there are 4 of them. One will be here, the other 3 will be downstairs. Feel free to join any of your choice. We'll have 30 minutes for that. Please make sure you fill in the notes for those that are leading those different breakout sessions on our open. Make sure the notes are there so that we can all view them. So our breakout session will start exactly in 2 minutes. Feel free to join any of your choice. And I'll repeat them for you so that you can be able to get them. Queue management will be right here. Musa Mwanje will be leading that. 360 facility coverage of OpenMRS solutions will be in the Majestic room. Please walk there. Derek Baluku will be leading that. And finally, but not final, the clinical views in all 3 will be led by Jeremy Jabbar in Regal. And also the patient's SMS alerts will be happening in PIH, will be led by PIH Rwanda in Royal. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to move to whichever breakout session you choose, and we'll be expecting you back in 30 minutes from now. Thank you very much.
Everybody must chop breakfast to collect money, must chop pay back, adagbo money, Also many red, I got pay them back. Come on body for Charlie Pockets, yeah. Clear road, will they live out for me? When you talking money, then you talking voltage. My body electric, they shock me. Got 2 bitches to the nightclub. Give 21, make it like 1, cause Pluto is active. So I took out in that room and I started to
So those who are staying with Musa, please come closer to the front. The ones that are staying in the room, please come closer to the front.